Could we take a few moments here just to explore what it might look like to be fully alive? So here I want to help you to envision the mindfully self-aware human being. Right? Another way we could frame this would be, what does it look like to be fully alive? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Well, let's take a few moments and let's see if we can unpack this together. I would propose that the mindfully self-aware human being is open to experience. Right? Now, throughout society, we know there are many people who aren't open to experience. What are those people? What are those people like? How do they act and behave and conduct themselves? Well, think about those individuals who go to the doctors, will sign up to prescriptions or medications when they feel sad or when they feel depressed or anxious. Now, I'm not undermining any mental health disorders or anything like that here, right? I'm just saying that mindfulness, in the way that it was originally intended, promotes that all experience is just experience, all right? Having a feeling, having an emotion could either be an illness or it could be a condition or it could just be an experience, right? We each get to decide. This is the fascinating idea, right? Say, for example, you have problems with how you feel sometimes. You and you alone get to decide whether what you have is a condition or an illness or a disease or a disorder, or whether you're just having an experience, all right? It's a big idea. It's going to be a life-transforming idea for some. Negative emotions aren't resisted or denied, but they're worked through and managed. Could you imagine what your life would look like if all of your emotions, all of your feelings were never diseases or disorders ever again, but were actually just experiences that we can work through and manage, that can be understood, that can be reflected upon, that can be studied? Could you imagine? Life might look a little bit differently for some people. Now, I'm not proposing anything right now. All we're actually doing is just asking questions and to envision what the mindfully self-aware human being might look like. The fully functioning human being might live existentially, right? Do you live existentially? Do you know what living existentially means? Well, let's explore it. This is where we have this readiness to live fully in the present moment without being stuck in the past or transfixed on the future, right? How much of your life do you spend thinking about the past or focusing on the past, those things that happened, those things that you got, those things that you didn't get? Think about some of the older generations who'll say, oh, I remember back in the day, if life was better back then. No, life wasn't better back then at all. Life was just different back then, that's all. How about the future? I think probably throughout my 20s, I spent most of my 20s looking forward to that day in the future when I would have all the stuff that I wanted. The only problem is that when we're focusing on the future, at the better days that are hopefully yet to come, we experience emotional trouble in the present because we're actually failing to appreciate what we have in the present. If we're focusing more on getting something in the future, thinking that we're going to be more fulfilled at some point in the future, then that means that we're not appreciating the here and now. Now, the interesting thing, in 2020, COVID-19 swept the world and it caught many people out, didn't it? There's a whole load of people working towards various goals and business goals, and I remember having a group conversation with a number of people asking how their perspective had changed throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And the recurring answer that I got was, well, I'd spent so many years striving to build this business and, working towards these financial goals and working towards these professional goals. Well, when the lockdown happened, I ended up spending time with my family, with my wife, with my kids, and actually, I don't want to go back to that old way of doing things. What do I actually want today? What's important to me today? Am I doing anything about this or am I not? Do I have a problem today? Who owns this problem? Do I own my problems or am I waiting for someone else to come along and own my problems? These are the kind of questions that we want to become mindful of, all right? If we are to grow and develop and improve the quality of our lives. Now, if you're not used to my teaching style, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be finding this a little bit uncomfortable. But listen, it's just an experience. Be open to it. What would happen right now if I was to start jumping up and down and start swearing and screaming and shouting? Well, you could take offence and you could say you're a bad person, or you could just say, oh, this is just an experience. I don't have to respond at all. I don't have to like or dislike. It just is. It's just different from how I would conduct myself. Could you imagine how much more peace you can experience in the present moment when you're no longer emotionally reacting to factors completely outside of your control? Have you picked up on the fact that I'm asking you more questions than what I am proposing ideas here? Self-awareness. Self-awareness is key. It's pivotal to an effective life. Right? No opinions required here, my friends. Fully functioning people, or mindfully self-aware human beings, are aware of themselves and can see the relationship between their attitudes, their outlooks on life, their beliefs, and their overall quality of life. Right? When I was in my teens, when I was in my 20s, I was not self-aware. I remember my background was actually in the military. But when I left the military, I entered this kind of, what would I call it? The pit of despair in life. Do you know what I mean by that? I'd gone through this life transition and I was not prepared for it. I'd spent 10 years of my life living a certain way and then made a change which required me to live in a completely different way. And I wasn't prepared for this transition, right? I ended up experiencing a huge crisis in my life because I wasn't aware of myself. For many years I defined myself as being a soldier, but now I wasn't a soldier, but I still thought I was a soldier. I still acted and behaved as a soldier, all right? It's taken me from there to here, to stop behaving like a soldier and start behaving like, like something else, all right? Today I conduct myself as a teacher, as an influencer. I'm here to inspire and raise up and build people up. That's my goal today. Back then, when I was a soldier, my goal was to work hard and over-deliver and get promotions and ultimately get pay rises. As we develop and grow and mature in life, our priorities change. If we are not aware of what these priorities are, we're never going to be able to identify the goals that we must set and the action steps that we must take to get from where we're at to where we want to be through transition. All right? The reason why people have emotional disturbance in life is because they simply don't have what they want today. All right? Now that might seem like a real oversimplification, but that gives us a starting point. People who experience emotional disturbance today just simply don't have what they want, and 9 times out of 10 don't know how to get what they want. Sometimes some people don't have what they want, don't know how to get what they want, and also don't know how to articulate what they want because they haven't yet developed the emotional vocabulary, because they haven't yet become this mindfully self-aware. Self-awareness gives us words. It gives us a vocabulary to communicate what it is that we want more of, what it is we want less of, allows us to build standards and boundaries into our life, sometimes with other people. Right? I'm sure you can relate to the fact that there are some people that we have in our lives that shouldn't be in our lives, all right? But the problem is, if we don't have the words to communicate our standards, our priorities, then we can sometimes end up compromising our standards and accepting less than we want, sometimes even less than we deserve. All right, so self-awareness is key to us developing the communication skills that we require to articulate our standards and our priorities to other people. And how are other people ever going to know what we want unless we can articulately tell them? So, creative expression, right? Some people would go as far as saying, I'm not creative, I'm not very creative. Creativity walks hand in hand with self-awareness. Creative expression is motivated more by personal freedom or by having new experiences and by safety and or emotional stability. Like, what I would go as far as proposing here is that people who say, I'm not creative, are actually those people who are actually more motivated by safety than freedom. Security, who are more motivated by being liked and feeling comfortable within themselves than taking a risk and expressing themselves creatively and freely in a liberated way. But guess where inner peace is found? Inner peace doesn't come through being safe and being secure and being liked by people and not ruffling feathers and keeping the peace with people. That's not where inner peace is found. Inner peace in life comes through creative expression, freedom. That's where freedom is. Freedom is inner peace. If you've never experienced this, you might not be able to relate to what I'm saying right now. All I can do is, as creatively as physically possible, articulate that which I've come to understand through my life. This is all that any teacher can do. And I'm not even going to be doing this perfectly. All right, fulfillment and peace. Let's wrap up this idea now. Fulfillment and peace. Some people go through life saying, I want inner peace, I want happiness, I want fulfillment. Wrong goal, wrong goal. Fulfillment comes from when we're able to see and identify that our lives are actually making a positive difference in the lives of other people. I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what you do, all right, what results or goals you achieve throughout your life. If your goals are physical, materialistic ones, if your goals are having emotions, you're always going to be left with a void, all right, that still requires filling. Don't get me wrong, some people prioritize happiness in life, all right? It's a starting point, right? It's better than prioritizing self-destruction. Do you know what I mean? All right. So if a person is prioritizing happiness in life, then what they're saying is, my number one priority here is an experience. My number one priority is an experience. Well, what would it look like for your life if your number one priority was no longer an experience for you, but was actually an experience that someone else could have through you? What would it mean for your life if your number one priority wasn't just to feel happy or to feel okay within yourself, but your priority actually became to grow and develop to the point where other people can start finding the degree of value in you, in your wisdom, in your insight, in your understanding that enables them to find that little bit of inner peace. All right? Now, I'm not suggesting anything here. All I'm doing is I'm asking questions. All right, you get to be as aware, as mindful, as reflective, as contemplative as you want to be. Right? I'm here to teach mindfulness. I'm here to ask you some questions, but you're here to respond.